Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Matt Horn
is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, Matt. Either you're ignoring me or you're doing something really exciting, but whatever, you're not answering. Listen, I know about this really awesome show that I think you should watch called The Mandalorian, and it's got adventure, it's got aliens, it's got deserts and ships, and it's got this little green guy who's really cute, and well, I don't want to threaten you, but I will say that if you don't watch it, I might come after you with my anvil and tongs. All right, great. Bye.
On the line, we have Emily Swallow talking to us from... Where are you talking to us from, Emily?
I'm in New York.
Ooh, that's good.
I've been all over lately. This is home for me.
What's the weather been like?
Well, today it's in the 30s, but it's sunny, so it's not too insufferable. My husband got me some heated gloves for Christmas, so I'm not quite as much of a wimp when I walk around outside and take my dog to the dog run.
Well, the reason why we've got you here is a bit Star Wars related, I would say. It's regarding The Mandalorian.
Ah, yes, I've heard of it.
I think you might have heard of it, actually. I think I'm going to start the interview with the most important question of all.
Oh, I can't wait.
What do you think of Baby Yoda?
What if I said, oh my gosh, that guy is such a jerk in real life? I mean, it's ridiculous because it's a puppet and you know it's not real, but he's adorable. And I just think it's such a brilliant element of the story because not only is he cute and funny and, you know, very mysterious, but because of him, we get to learn so much about the Mandalorian that we might not, since he's always under this mask. And because of the little green guy, he gets humanized, and you're right there with him, with his thoughts and what he's feeling. So bravo to Jon Favreau, because that's one of the most genius things I guess I've ever seen.
In the show, you're playing a role called the Armourer.
Yes.
For anyone who hasn't seen the show yet, how would you sort of sum the Armourer up?
It takes place after the fall of the Empire. There's no real order that's been established yet in the galaxy. So we know that there's a clan of Mandalorians that are in hiding on one of the planets that our main Mandalorian visits. And the Armourer is the one who both serves the function of making their armor for them, but also serves as kind of a spiritual guide and a leader. And I think that she's the one who keeps them rooted in who they are and reminds them of the importance and the richness of this code by which they've committed to living, even though there's chaos up above. And when the Mandalorian comes to see her, we know that there is some sort of history between them, and she sort of nudges him along the way, I think, to step into the full potential of who he is and to stop just kind of being this lone ranger who only looks out for himself. But she does that in very, very subtle ways. She's somebody who does not push her authority in people's faces, and it seems like she commands a lot of respect just by virtue of who she is. And
you get to wear quite a cool helmet suit combo.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Yeah, I geeked out over it when I saw it.
Were you thinking...
Yeah, I made all sorts of weird noises. I didn't know what it was going to sound like in there.
I imagine James L. Jones had the same problem. Exactly what can you see from that helmet?
Not very much. I keep saying I really hope that they have some bloopers reels from filming, because when we were in between takes, a lot of us who were in those helmets were like running into things, running into each other. You don't really have any peripheral vision because of the way it's built. And then where my eyes are, the visor part is tinted, and the place where the Armourer hangs out all the time is this very dimly lit kind of cave room. There were plenty of times when I wasn't entirely sure what was going on around me and just tried to play it cool, which worked for the Armourer because she doesn't make a lot of sudden moves until she has to.
What was production of the show like for you? Because obviously it's Star Wars, and this is the first live action series that they've tried to do, isn't it?
It is, yes. You know, it started in an incredibly boring way for me. It was an audition that came up. My agent said they thought it had something to do with Star Wars, but there was so little information about it that there really wasn't anything to get worked up about, which I'm so grateful for now because I didn't have a reason to get nervous. The only information I had about the character is that she was a leader of a group of people and that she was very Zen-like. When they put out the original breakdown, they were looking for British women in their 50s or 60s. So I'm not quite sure how I slipped in under that. But when I went in for the audition, the casting associate, a guy named Jason, he put me on tape. It was very, very casual, and he gave me a few more thoughts about the scene, which was more or less a scene in episode 3 where there's a lot of Mandalorians and there's a fight that breaks out. And we did a few takes, and then he suggested that I do it with a British accent since they'd been seeing a lot of Brits for it, and that's what wound up sticking. So it's more or less a British accent. We didn't want it to be too specific because she's not British, but it does seem to give her a little more authority and I think a little more mystery. So even when I got it, I still wasn't quite sure what it was. I shot my stuff at the very beginning, like October, November, and I had finished shooting everything before it was ever announced. So I got to do it without having any pressure or any anticipation from people about what it was going to be. And it was such a fun experience. I mean, my first insight, I think, into kind of the magnitude of who the Armourer is was when I had to go in pretty early for costume fittings because it took them a long time to build that magnificent suit of armor and that helmet. It was a company called Legacy Effects that did that. And I went in a couple of months before I started filming for that. And then I got to talk with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni only a few days before we started shooting about kind of where this story fits into the Star Wars timeline and how it connects to other Mandalorian stories that we know about. And Jon talked to me specifically for the Armourer about some Kurosawa films that he was thinking about, like Seven Samurai, and talked about just that sense of regality and that simplicity of movement for the Armourer. And so that was really helpful. I just remember it being so much fun on set. Everybody was so excited that we were getting to play in the sandbox of Star Wars stories. And Jon is such a magnificent team leader. He really brings people together in a way that is playful and so collaborative, and he encourages everybody's individuality. And it was just a lot of fun. Even when I finished shooting my stuff, I still knew so little about the series overall. So then once it came out and I got to watch it, I got to learn a lot more, just like everybody else.
Had you been a Star Wars fan before?
Yeah, I grew up on those original 3 movies, and I had like Ewok dolls, and of course I wanted to be Princess Leia, and I would try to do my hair like that, and my friends and I like acted out scenes from the movies. And I had kept up with the subsequent movies that have been released, but I did not know nearly as much as I know now. And I hadn't actually watched any of the animated series at that point, so I got to learn a lot with those about the Mandalorians, and I continue to learn more and more because every time I get to meet a fan, they tell me about some point of connection they have to the Star Wars movies. I mean, I'm in awe of how many people it has captivated and how many lives it's touched. It's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Well, obviously there's a season 2, isn't there, I hear?
That's what they say, yeah.
Any hints, any ripples?
Nope, I got nothing for you.
Oh, well, okay. I suppose with season 1 then, obviously it's been released now, but how sort of hard was it keeping the secret?
To be honest, I knew so little that it was sort of easy because I could speak to my character, which I wasn't allowed to speak about. I remember even when we did the premiere, I was given talking points for the red carpet, and Disney didn't want anyone to know anything beyond that first episode. And so I couldn't even say like that the Armourer was going to come back in later episodes. I like secrets. I like surprises. So I sort of enjoyed that I wasn't allowed to tell people much because I'm not somebody that seeks out spoilers on the internet. I don't like people to tell me about a movie or a play before I've seen it. I like experiencing it in that moment. So it wasn't super tempting for me to tell people because there was so much I didn't know. So it was easier to say nothing.
Are there any sort of funny anecdotes you can share about the production of the series? I mean, obviously you've mentioned knocking into people.
I mean, that happened frequently for me, so that provided plenty of awkwardness. I'm trying to think if there was anything spectacularly funny that happened. I mean, it wasn't funny, but it was really cool when George Lucas came to set. I was there when he came to visit, and standing there in the middle of production for this brand new thing with all this amazing technology, and thinking about 40 plus years ago when he first created those movies. It was pretty incredible to hear him speak about it and to think about how he must feel that this legacy has endured as long as it has.
He probably said, Yoda's gone a bit small, hasn't he?
Yeah. I think he shrunk. Did somebody put him in the hot water?
Oh dear. So obviously, let's talk a bit about you, Emily, you yourself. What made you want to get into acting in the first place?
I tried so many other things before I admitted, or I guess even knew, that it was what I wanted to do as my livelihood. Because I liked performing when I was a kid. I sang in the church choir and I did plays at school. But honestly, I was so interested in so many other things. And I didn't have anyone in my direct orbit that had pursued a career as an actor. So it didn't really feel like a real thing to me. I didn't have any reference points for that. But it just kept seeking me out. And I went to the University of Virginia, and I was a Middle Eastern Studies major because I thought I would go into the Foreign Service and work for the State Department. But the drama department where I went to school was incredibly welcoming to majors and non-majors, which isn't always the case. So I'm really grateful for that. And I just started to realize that I was finding myself more and more in the drama department and sort of ignoring my thesis and ignoring basically every other subject. And eventually one of my acting teachers in my last year at school, he said, is this something that you want to try doing because you love it and you're good at it? And him giving me that encouragement kind of pushed me over the edge. So I did work on auditions for conservatories and graduate programs and got into the MFA program at NYU in New York. And that was it. I went there and I've been doing it ever since. And I'm so glad that it finally found me and held me down and made me do it because I love it.
What advice would you give to anyone wanting to pursue a career in the industry?
Oh, man. It sounds like such a vague thing, but it is so important, I think, to really find ways to connect back to yourself at all times, because it's so easy to assume that you're supposed to be somebody else or that you're supposed to be doing something else to get noticed. And there's no one path through this profession. I think especially nowadays when people can create their own content and get it out there and have it, turned into a series or turned into a movie, it's easy to lose sight of who you are and to kind of try to be somebody else in an attempt to get what you want. So I think staying connected to who you are and what it is that you really want out of it and what stories you want to tell is so important. And then I think also finding a healthy way to deal with what is a lot of rejection. I mean, that's just a reality, I think, of anything creative, is that there's going to be a lot of people who tell you they don't want what you have to offer. And that's just part of it. So I think the less you take that personally and the less you see it as a failure, but simply as, okay, this piece of the puzzle doesn't fit in here right now. There must be another piece that I'm supposed to put in here and it'll come along when it's supposed to. I think that's tremendously important because it's hard to put it's yourself. You're putting yourself out there when you're an actor. It's not just your script. It's not, music you've written. It is your body and your voice and everything that is you. And so it's easy to feel like you are wrong if you don't get certain parts. So I think it's really important to find a healthy way to deal with that.
Well, one of the things from last year which is ongoing is my love of the comms and of cosplayers and fan art and, panels and whatnot. And obviously your career spans a few of them, obviously Mandalorian included. You've got Supernatural, you've got Castlevania, I suppose, in some respects. What's the fan reception been like for you at cons? Because I imagine you've been to a few.
I have. Most of the conventions that I had done until very recently were just for Supernatural. My introduction to those was sort of funny because Amara, the character that I played, I mean, she's called the Darkness, and she's in a pretty sour mood for the entire season 11. So I started doing these conventions, and fans were really apprehensive when they were coming up to talk to me, and they seemed a little frightened, honestly. And I realized that it was because I never cracked a smile for that whole season, and they were worried that I was just some horrible, mean, monstrous woman like Amara. So it was fun to start to earn the fans' trust and to laugh with them and to show them that I'm actually like a pretty just awkward goober. And it was so cool with that show too, because that was definitely the most passionate fandom I'd been a part of until now, and to find out what they connected to in the stories and how they'd found the show, because now it's been on for 15 years, and some people have been watching since the beginning. Some people discovered it like a year ago and binge watched the entire thing. So I always like hearing about how the stories fit into people's lives and what it is that they take away from them. And this last weekend, I just did my first convention since The Mandalorian finished airing here in the States, and it was unreal. I mean, I am just shocked and so delighted at how much people love the show and how much they love the Armourer and how much they want to know about her. And I had little kids coming up to me saying that they wanted to dress up like the Armourer, and there's just so much joy in the Star Wars fandom. I think it makes all of us feel like a kid in the best possible way. So it's really, really cool. I have never experienced anything like it, and I'm just loving it.
Have you had any sort of tweets? I presume you're on social media, but have you had any sort of tweets of fan art and cosplayers and such of your characters?
Yeah, and I have been trying, whenever somebody tags me in their fan art, I try to repost it on my Instagram or on my Twitter, and that's been really cool. I mean, people are incredibly talented, and it's cool to see the character through a different lens, however it is that they're interpreting it. And I actually had a fan at this convention that I just did in Portland who made me a replica of the Armourer's helmet, and it's just incredible. I mean, it fits me, it has padding inside, I could wear it all day if I wanted to. But I haven't seen anyone else dress up as the Armourer yet, but I know people are working on building their costumes, so I'm excited to see that.
Obviously, you mentioned Supernatural, which has sadly come to an end. Oh. Yeah. Being on that show, and obviously it's had that longevity, what was it like, obviously, being part of the final season?
It's been great. I mean, it's still in progress. We're not done shooting it yet. I was so excited when they asked me to come back, because I do just have such affection for that character and for the show, and for them to want me to be part of the closing of the story means a lot. I'm amazed that after 15 years of doing this, that Jensen and Jared are still so playful and hilarious, and they just take such joy in what they do. It's one of the most relaxed and happy sets I've ever been on. Everybody has a great time working on the show. And I, just like everybody else, I don't know how it's ultimately going to end, but it's been really fun dipping into the close of this story and getting to come back. And especially because I think at the end of season 11, we saw sort of a reconciliation between Chuck and Amara, but it always felt to me like it was a little too easy. Like after millennia of fighting and hating each other, I didn't really buy that it was going to be all unicorns and rainbows. So it was great when we got to come back at the beginning of the season and see that Amara strangely loves Reno, but that they were still sort of at odds with each other, I think is a really honest depiction of siblings and family that have those conflicts. I don't know how it's all going to turn out, but it's really cool being a part of the last season for sure.
Obviously, you've been in a number of different projects. Which actors and actresses have been your favourites to work with and why? Ooh!
Oh, wow. I've worked with some incredible people. I did a series in, I think, 2012, 2013 called Monday Mornings that was only on for one season on TNT. And it was such a remarkable cast. Alfred Molina, Ving Rhames, Bill Irwin, Jamie Bamber. And that was one of the most solid groups of people I've gotten to work with. And I remember I learned some really important lessons there about just how to treat other people on a set, because you always hear all these stories about people who are big stars who kind of get away with being jerks and lots of bad behavior. And here are these actors who I admired so much, and I'd been watching my entire life. You know, people like Alfred Molina. Fred is just one of the kindest, most relaxed people on a set, and he makes it a point to know everybody's name, the entire crew, and he just extends himself in this way that is so generous, in addition to being a phenomenal actor. And so seeing that, and that being one of my first big experiences on a TV show, it really taught me a lesson that, like, there's no reason not to be kind to people. I think sometimes people are ill-behaved just because they're afraid and they're nervous and they don't want to look bad, so they're really, like, caught up in their own headspace and, you know, being worried they're going to be bad or something. And it just showed me that creating a positive atmosphere on set and helping yourself relax just by getting to know people can also help the work. You don't have to kind of be closed off in your own head. I did a play a few years ago with Mark Rylance, and that was an incredible experience, and it was a brand new play, and so there were parts of it that we were sort of writing in rehearsal. And I did a play last year with, or 2 years ago, I guess, 2018, with Tom Hanks out in LA. Most of what I took away from working with those people is that you never stop working really hard. You know, it's not like you become a wonderful actor and then, like, it's just you cruise along and you're brilliant in every role. Like, you work hard every time. I've worked with so many incredible actors who are kind, and I'm really grateful for that, because it kind of blots out all those stories that you hear about people who are not always lovely. And I've had a few experiences like that, but most of it has been positive.
Who would you like to work with in the future?
Oh, man. Who do I want to work with? I feel like I sort of avoid even figuring that out for myself, because so many unexpected things have happened that have been delightful, and so I kind of like not knowing. But I mean, actors that I love that I think it would be great to do something with, I mean, Cate Blanchett's incredible. Olivia Colman, I've been watching her for years, and I just think she's brilliant. And when she started getting recognition more and more and winning awards, it just excited me so much. And I first saw her in the BBC version of Broadchurch. She and David Tennant both, I just think, are such phenomenal actors. I would love to work with them. Yeah, that's a handful of people.
Well, before we go to the 1 minute plug, I do have to mention this. I know I mentioned it before the interview. I kind of have to mention it now, because the fandom are going to go crazy, I think. You're in a certain game being released this year. I'll say it's The Last of Us Part 2, because... Yeah,
we can say that.
We can say that. We can say it's got a May release date, potentially, but we're not sure. And we can't say much more than that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be unbelievable, though, because, I mean, they've been working on it for a long time, and Neil, who kind of created it, I got to talk to him before I started work on it, and the amount of thought he's put into that story is incredible, and the artists that I got to work with in making it, I don't think it will disappoint. I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Obviously, a lot of it would have been mocap. What was it like doing mocap? Because that's completely different from, like, The Mandalorian, isn't it?
It is, yes. Mocap makes me feel like a 5-year-old again, because, I mean, you're just playing make-believe. You put on these funny suits with a bunch of little balls attached to it so that these special cameras can track all of your movements, and you're wearing a camera rig on your head that's focused on your face at all times, which is just weird. And then you're in this big, open kind of warehouse space with no set, sometimes props, but most of it you're just having to make believe. I mean, it takes you right back to being a kid when you were, you know, playing like pirates in the backyard, and you're having just to imagine everything. And it's pretty goofy. It's always amazing to me to see the final product and to look back at pictures of what we all looked like in those ridiculous suits, because you would never guess. But it's a lot of fun. It's a weird thing, but once you get over the silliness of it, it's pretty cool.
A lot of people are going to have questions we can't answer.
Right. But that makes it so much more exciting when we get to play it.
The other thing, I suppose, about mocap I can say is, obviously with Baby Yoda, obviously in The Mandalorian you go, oh, there he is. But in mocap it's like, well, where is he?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very weird thing. And actually, something about the child, Baby Yoda, is that they had the puppet, but then every scene that we shot with him, they didn't know ultimately if they were going to use the puppet or if they were going to wind up doing CGI. So every scene that we shot, we did one take with the puppet, and we did one take with just a clean plate so that they could animate it afterwards. And I think everyone's glad that they went with the puppet, because I think it just looks so much more. I feel weird saying something looks real when it's Yoda, who is a fantasy figure, but I think it just looks so much better that way. And I'm glad that they wound up doing that, and that worked out. And that I got to actually see him in the scenes, and I wasn't just talking to thin air. That's always a plus.
Well, I'm going to give you a 1-minute plug, obviously.
Okay.
To plug The Mandalorian. You can plug The Last of Us Part 2 as well. And anything else you've got coming up.
Oh, okay. Well, I am obviously in The Mandalorian and excited for everybody to see that. You can probably find me in the last season of Supernatural. You'll get to see me in The Last of Us Part 2. And if you happen to watch SEAL Team on CBS, I am throughout season 3 of that. So, if you watch Castlevania on Netflix, you will find me there as an ill-fated, very ill-fated character, Dracula's wife, who gets killed early on, but we get to see her in flashbacks. So there's a few places to look for me.
Well, as a final note, obviously I'm looking at your different roles, and I'm thinking it's quite varied. Is there any roles that you would like to do?
I would love to do more comedy. I love that I've gotten to play some very strong, powerful, kind of somber women, but I think because of that, people tend to see you one way and not necessarily think of you another way. And I've gotten to do a few sitcoms and single camera comedy. I got to do Flight of the Conchords way back in the day. But I really want to do more comedy. I would like to laugh a little bit more. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, I was going to mention the stage show as well, quickly, that you did, called Jack and Swallow.
Yeah. I hope we revive that. Listen, I have had my last name all my life, and I've gotten so much crap for it. So when we stumbled upon that name, my friend Jacqueline and we were pretty pleased with ourselves. And I love working with her, and we just have a great chemistry. We haven't done the show in the past couple of years, mostly because she is now the mother of 2 small children, and she has her hands full with that. But the second one will be starting school soon, so we have resolved that we're going to work on it again and do it here in New York, and I don't know, maybe come up with an on-camera version of it. Because why not?
Because why not? Would you ever transfer it across the pond? Because I know we usually transfer ours across. It doesn't really work sometimes. But then I've never actually seen an American show come here and try to be translated here.
Maybe this is the one.
Could it work? That's the question. That's always the question, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Emily, it's been a pleasure interviewing you.
Thank you. It's been lovely to talk with you.
Obviously, we'll have to get you back again.
All right. Maybe when I can say more. And I don't have to keep everything a secret.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. It was good to talk to you.
Bye-bye now.